peer communication between two or more devices without any centralized control. Like each individual PC is a peer-to-peer only. I'm communicating, I'm sending messages, receiving messages, right? Like it's a peer-to-peer communication. So there is no separate centralized one. Like if I want to access a website. Okay, it's a web server. So I have to access the website, web data, web pages from the web server. Like mail server. So mail server provide a mail services. I have to access mail services from mail server. So like that, server provided services, client access service. Server is a centralized one, and we are all accessing from service from the server. That is server and client. Yes, server and client is not always its operating system and service. It is also an application related server client application connectivity is also there. So peer to peer, server and client, different type of servers like a web server, file server, DHCP server, DNS server, WDS server, VPN server, storage server, database servers, like different type of servers are there. So we access service from different type of services from different type of servers. How a machine become a server, either it is a Windows server, or maybe it is a Linux server, or maybe it is a router, or it is maybe a certain device. It's like a firewall. It is firewall is also a device. Firewall is there. So how? So it is there, but how it can able to provide a service by installing built-in features or roles or packages, servers, and configuration of that configuration as a server means built-in features, packages, or applications you install. Not only that one, you have to configure services. Okay. How to understand what is your request, the server, how you will understand what is the client request, or client will how it is understand what is the server is sending to you based on the protocols only. Okay, the servers basically works based on the protocols. Sending, you will send a request and you will get a response. And just for knowing, like there is a different server operating systems are there, like a Windows server operating system, Linux server operating system, Unix server operating system. Shivani Pandey. Okay. Servers based on different hardware sizes, hardware configurations. So we have a different type of server, like a tower server. That's we can also call that tower server, rack server, blade server. Why we call it as a server based on what it is, the way it is look. Yeah, I done marking attendance. Okay, so not that. And what is the data center? So that is also we discussed. So data center means it is a combination of different components, servers, network components, networking cables, connectivity, firewalls, storage servers, different type of storage devices, applications are running, and we should follow the cooling system, cabling system, and power supply, backup power supply kind of stuff. Yeah, bye. Okay.
Sir.
So this is what we so far discussed.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
I was disconnected due to network issue. Can you mention my?
Ajay.
Yeah, Ajay Pandey.
Ajay already present.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 3.
Okay, so next one is I want to tell about a work group and domain. Okay. This is also very useful in our maybe in the future also. So I will tell about work group and domain. What is Active Directory, DHCP and DNS. Actually, DHCP DNS big story is there. Just I will tell what it is. Already I told so many times, but I told already, but what is a work group and what is a domain? It is very easy to draw in the paintbrush, but if I draw in a paintbrush again, copy paste, not much easy to kept in a document type. Okay, now so guys, what is a work group? All our PCs, the basically we are in the work group only. Work group means it is a peer-to-peer type. So we are all communicating each other. So devices are communicating each other without any centralization. Okay. So work group, there is no centralized control. In the work group, we are not a centralized controlling system. Every PC, their own working only. For example, my laptop, I'm logging to my laptop because of my current laptop. It is my PC information is inside only. Okay, so first of all, for example, I have taken a PC. So this is a PCA. Okay, and for example, there is a user name is Ajay. This is a work group PC. How you know it is a work group PC? So different ways to know if it is a work group PC or not. I will tell one way, that is called go to settings, system, click about, okay, and rename this PC advanced. Go to rename this PC advanced. So it is showing you are in a work group. Still you want more details, then I will click a change. There you can able to see your belongs to work group. Member of work group. Work group name can be different. It depends upon the your organization configuration like that. If you put any different name also, not a problem. But by default, work group name is work group. Okay, member of work group. So you are in a work group now. So where I got, so I went to settings, system, and click on about, and click here, rename this PC advanced. You can see work group name is work group. Otherwise, click on the change. So you can see work group name is work group. Member of work group. Of course, this is my computer name. Okay. It is a member of a work group. Yeah. For example, I want to join in the domain like a change, select member of domain. So then you are belongs to domain. Okay, so mine is Windows 10 Home Edition. Home Edition. Home editions cannot join into the domains. Okay, that domain thing I will tell, but just try to understand. Okay, for example, I have a PCA. The PCA username is Ajay. Ajay is an administrator of PCA, so Ajay can able to log into PCA, of course. How? Because Ajay user account, username and password stored in a PCA only. Okay, PCA only. Next. So Ajay want to install some application PCA, so he can uninstall the application settings, background settings, everything he can able to do in the PCA. His user information stored in PCA. He can log into PCA. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so similarly, we have multiple PCs in the network. So different PCs, different usernames. Another username is Aman is there. Okay, so same. I have another PC. PCB is there. Aman is the username. Aman can able to log into PCB.
Okay, sir.
So I'm searching for Suraj is another short name. It's a PCC. It's a PCC. So like we have a all these are all work group pieces. All these are all work group pieces. Vivek also came. Uppal came. He came. Uppal came. Unnati Tiwari came. Came. Atish Singh, who is missing candidates. Ravi Ranjan, Panjal Pandey, Avanish Tirupati, and Ashish Kumar Sharma, Ashika, and Sajid. PCE, for example. Okay, so Ajay can access PCA, Aman can access PCB, Suraj can access PCC, Ulmesh can able to access PCD. Okay, Sajid can able to access PCB. Okay, no. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow is a version test, means today is your class. So we'll try to complete that. Okay. So for example, Ajay want to access means login, want to log into PCB. Can he able to log in? No. He cannot log into another devices. He cannot log into other PCs. Okay. So simplest thing. Guys, this is a work group picture. So we can put a in our work group. No. Control Z. This part is belongs to work group because I have to give some more information. What is the work group? First of all, guys, work group is decentralized administration, means there is no centralized control or administration. Every PC has their own administrator account. Every PC has their own administrator account. So the PC administrator can control that PC only. Like PCA administrator can manage the PCA. Once PC user cannot log into other PC. So A PC user cannot log into B PC, or a PC user cannot log into any other work group. Why? Because of where is Ajay's username and password stores? PCA, not in PCB, not in PCC. So he cannot log into other PCs. He cannot control other PCs also. User and a password settings information stores in their own PCs, own systems or PCs. Can control or manage individually. So individually you can manage the system, not centrally. Okay, think like this. This is the better, guys. No, we are not depends upon any central. We are on our own system. Right? I can control my PC with my user account. I can log in. Okay, so this PC cannot control by any other central PC kind of stuff. But think like this: you are working in an organization. You are working in an organization. You have 100 computers are there. 100 computers, 100 local users are there. The user in the okay, 100 users. Okay, 100 PCs, 100 user accounts are 200 user accounts are there. For example, 100 computers are there. You want to deploy some application or you want to enforce certain settings. So what to do? You have to go to each and every PC. For example, you are a desktop support engineer or a system engineer. So what you have to do? You have to go to each and every PC and you have to do all the settings, right? You have to go to PCA, PCB, PCC, PCD. Like you have 100 computers, you have to go to each and every computer and you have to do settings. All right, you have to manage installation or uninstallation. Those things you have to do it. Okay, you cannot enforce settings from a centrally. Okay, so that is one thing in about our group, guys. Of course, the point I told. So, for example, Ajay is an administrator account in a PCA. So Ajay is a local administrator. So the name we call it as a local administrator of PC. I have to change everything. Okay, he can do changes, installations, applications, installation and installations, and he can give permissions, kind of stuff. So Ajay can able to manage our PCA, but he cannot manage other PCs. And so, for example, here it is given. It same goes for other things. For example, user information stored in that particular PC, like as information stored in PCA, AMA information stored in a PCB, not in other PCs. If you want to do any make changes or settings, you have to go to each and every PC and you have to do it. If more number of devices increases, then it is very difficult to manage. Then this domain kind of stuff come into picture. Okay, what is the domain kind of stuff? Let's see. Guys, domain is a word. Okay, if you search in a Google what is a domain, then you will get a lot of things. For example, you are working in a certain technology or certain group. Okay, so what the people ask, what is your domain? Okay, so then it is the word will changes. Okay, so active directory domain. This concept is not just a word domain. It is a domain concept. It's active directory domain concept. It's a group of PCs are centrally controlled by centralized server, that is called domain controller. Guys, understand work group?
Yes, sir.
So here it is. we have a multiple devices, including computers, resources like a printers kind of stuff is also we can add it here. Guys, already I told this is not a bus topology or tree topology kind of stuff. It is simply a representation of network. So it is telling devices connected to network kind of stuff. I have a computers in my organizations. Okay. Now I join these computers and my resources like a printer kind of stuff. Computer name is P1. Just for our understanding. So I have a computers like a PC1, PC2, PC3, PC4 in my network. All are in a work group or think like this work group. Okay. Now I join this into the domain. So before that answer, this is a server, guys. This is simply this is a server. This server is nothing but a domain controller. Is a domain controller. Need a little bigger, so then can use also good. Okay, for example, this server name is A, maybe DC1. Okay, it is a domain controller. It contains this Active Directory domain services role. Okay, so but I'm writing it contains Active Directory database. Okay, Active Directory database. What is this Active Directory database contains? The devices, the computers information. Okay, computer information. For example, what are the computers are there? Like for example, PC1 and PC2, PC3, PC4 are joined into the domain, not PC5, only PC1, PC2, PC4 join into the domain. And you can create your users in this one. You can create a users in a domain, Active Directory database. So for example, you are creating user 1. Make it simple. User 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, user 6, user 7, user 8, user 9, user 10. Next, you have resources. What is resource? P1 also is a part of domain. Okay, it's also part of domain. Now, one more again. So, how to join it to domain? So, for example, you are a PC1. I go to PC1, scroll down, about, rename this PC, change, and I'll select a member of domain and my domain name. Domain has a domain name. I put a domain name here. Okay, like google.com, facebook.com, or latif.com, or abcd.com, savantis.com. I have a domain is there. So I created a domain. So then only domain controller will come up, right? So I given the domain name and click OK, OK. Then it will ask for authentication. Then I give authentication. So then finally I'll get it. So this is a domain. So domain need a domain name. Okay. For example, I am giving a domain name is latif.com, maybe abcd.com. I put a latif.com. That is my domain name. What is my domain controller name? Is a DC1. Okay. So just it's a domain name. So I have to join into the domain. The computers which join into the domain called a domain controller. Sorry. Computers which joined into the domain. This is a part of domain. Is domain computer. The users in the domain, domain users. These are the domain computers. These are the domain users. Domain users can log into any domain computer. Domain users can log into any domain computers. Okay. So user one is try to log in here. User one is try to log in here. Okay. So what will happen in PC1? User one is trying to log in. What will happen? User one information not in the PC1. User one information in the domain controller. Okay, where is the user and where is their password? So that device only authenticate, right? You want to get authenticated means the username should be there, password should be there. Then only will get authenticated, right? So what will happen? Whenever you log into user one with PC1, it send a request to your domain controller. So this is user one and this is the password. Please verify my username and password. So domain controller authenticates user and tell yes, you have got authenticated. Now you can able to access. Okay. Guys, authentication and authorization. Authentication means verification of your identity. Your login, username, password should be verified, right? The verification of your identity called a authentication. Authorization means whether you are allowed to access or not. Okay, so you are allowed to access or denied to access. That is authorization. You are authorized to access the printer. You are authorized to access the computer. You're authorized to access some server. You are not authorized to access certain things. Access management. Okay, access management. Service request. User forget a password. User request to access VPN. That we discussed now. Same thing. Authorization, authentication and authorization. Again, I'm telling PC1 is a domain computer and user one is a domain user, and the user one is trying to log into PC1, then the information sent to domain controller for authentication purpose. So domain controller authenticate user and it will authorize user to access PC1. It same goes user 2, user 3, user 4. So user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, user 6, these are all domain users. These domain users can log into any domain computers. Okay. So what are the domain computers? PC1, PC2, PC3, PC4. Guys, this is a question. Can I log in with user 5 in PC5? Any guess? Simple question.
No, sir.
Why? Very good. But why?
Because only PC 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Very good. Very good. Yes. In domain only PC1, PC2, PC3, PC4 only there. PC5 is not part of our domain. It is not our domain controller. It is not in our. It is not in our domain. It is outside of our domain. So domain users can log into domain resources and domain computers, but not in a outside of domain. That's very good. Good. Okay. So that's it. Is a domain is a administrative boundary. Administrative boundary. This is the boundary. PC5 is also in the network, but user 5 cannot log in or user 6 cannot log in. User 1 cannot log in. Why? Because even it is in the network, but not in the domain. So PC5 is not in the domain. It may be in different domain or maybe it is in workgroup. We don't know, but it is not in my domain. Okay, so my domain computers are allowed here. Okay, so this is the main point, guys. So domain controller is a centralized domain server. It is a central server called a domain controller. Okay, this domain controller contains a Active Directory database and authenticates users when they log in. Okay, so what is the database contains about a user information, computer information, and resources information, service informations in the domain controller. Okay, so user in the domain can log into domain computers, can log into domain computers. So this is good, right? So earlier workgroup we tell every PC has their own local user. The local user and local administrator can able to log into their own PCs. But here it is user one login today here. Okay. Tomorrow he want to log into some other PC. For example, user one want to log into here tomorrow. So he can log in. Maybe user 6 want to log in here in the next shift. Maybe he will log in. Okay. So users can log into any computer, but in a Windows system, it is one user, one system, one user policy, right? Single user multitasking, right? Only one user can log in at a time, but one system can log in with the multiple users, but not at a time. Okay. One Windows server, I have a Windows machine, I have a 10 users. 10 users can log in, but not at a time. But in Linux, 10 users can log in at the same time. So this is the point. Okay. So users can log into any system in the domain. One more is there, that is called a controlling. It is a centralized control. Centralized control means I have a policy, I have some settings I want to push. I want to give a certain setting to a multiple systems. So I no need to go to each and every system. Simply I will create a group policy and I will give it to the users directly. Users are a groups directly using a group policy. Using group policies. I can write completely, but it is taking time. Otherwise, I will write. Okay. Using group policies, we can push settings, we can enforce settings to the domain computers and domain users. Okay, so this is the our diagram. wanted to make it size a little bit like this, so not compromising anything. Okay, so what is the domain? Centralized administration, and we have a centralized controller that is called a domain controller, which is nothing but a server. Domain controller is nothing but a server. Domain controller. Domain administrator is an admin for all the systems in the domain. For all systems in the domain, administrator of this domain controller is an admin. Domain administrator is an administrator of all systems. So only single administrator. We can enforce various type of settings to the large number of users and computers in the domain. We can enforce various type of settings. Means network related settings. Okay. It's various type of settings. This part I'm copying. Various type of settings I'm telling. Okay. Here it is can be a network related settings, network related settings. Okay. Application deployment, network application deployment. I want to deploy an application to multiple PCs. I can do it. Application deployment, networking related settings. Example, IPsec, firewall related settings. You can enforce Wi-Fi ID related kind of settings. Yes, okay. Folder redirection. Desktop. Desktop means your desktop environment. Why it is going to dark? I didn't not required, right? The desktop desktop settings. Okay, like this is application setting, application access related settings. You can do it like a app controller kind of stuff. This is okay. So there are various type of settings. So many type of settings are there. Okay, so this kind of settings you can enforce. Again, in a domain controller. So domain controller is a centralized control of your domain, which is nothing but a server, which contains a database called a Active Directory database. User information, computer information, group information, services, resource information stored in your centralized server. Domain user can log into any domain computer. Domain user can log into any domain computer. So no, that particular restrictions are not there. Okay, so here also I have written some information. So this is a little bigger because we don't have sizes here. Bigger sizes we can put it. User information, username, password stores in the domain controller. Computer joined the domain called a domain computers. Users in the domain called a domain users. domain user can log into their in their any domain computer. Domain user can log into any domain computer. Okay. Domain admin account is an administrator for all devices in the domain. Domain user log into domain computer. Domain controller authenticates users. Guys, domain user log into domain computer, but who is going to authenticate you? Domain controller is authenticating. Right? Only 1%. Guys, understand what is work group, domain, work group and domain differences? What is work group and domain differences? Work group is a decentralized administration, domain is a centralized administration. In a work group PCs has their own administrator, has their local users, so they can able to access their own PCs. Okay, they will administrate their own PCs. They cannot log into other PCs. They cannot able to control any other PCs. Their username, password, settings, information stored in their own PCs only. You can manage individually, not centrally. Okay. Domain. Centralized administration. It is a centralized controller. Domain controller. Centralized administration. Centralized controller is there, which is nothing but our server, also called as a domain controller. Okay, domain controller is nothing but your server. So user information, group information, services information, resource information stored in the domain controller Active Directory database. Users in the domain controller can able to log into any of the domain computers. Okay. We can enforce various type of settings to large number of users and users and computers in the domain using group policies. A user can able to log into any of the domain. So whenever the user is logging to domain computer or accessing domain resources, domain controller authenticate the user and authorize the user to access the computer or resources. Okay, so these are the differences, guys. Okay, you got one more small point I want to tell point for personal thing, guys. If in case like in an interview, it may be not a big question, may not be. I am not giving any guarantee this question compulsory. Of course, after interview completed, whether they ask, they didn't ask, but interview is completed. You got selected, not selected, that is different thing. But what I am sharing information, it is always useful. After your interview is completed, better to start reading all these things for at least weekly once or twice. Not daily it is required, but weekly once or twice. Go through once what are we, share the information and start learning. You are learning now from me, right? So what are you are getting? But at least some people may not having any additional knowledge and maybe next level of knowledge. So compulsory, guys, keep learning. Even though job may take time, maybe onboarding process may take time, maybe immediate. I don't know. So what is your onboarding? usually we don't get information. Okay, but point is, whatever it is, once you are completed, tomorrow is a version test, concentrate return version test only. Once it is completed, your technical interview, so completed, then start prepare again. Additional part means up to 1 to 0 to 1 to 3 you come, then go for 4 5 6 like that. Keep learning, keep adding. So this is very useful. That's I'm trying to share basic information. Okay. Okay guys, up to here, understand anything you want to tell? Hmm? If no one is speaking, guys, I thought I am disconnected. Otherwise, I will disconnect.
No, sir. No, sir. You are
Definitely, because I am taking additional time. Borrowing additional time, I shifted the batch to next week. No one will give this information, guys. Promising.
Yes, sir.
So yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, this part, what is Active Directory? I am telling only main two important things about Active Directory. So that's we'll discuss, and then we'll take small break. Active Directory domain. So what is the Active Directory domain? A logical administrative boundary of users and computers. Logical administrative boundary of users and computers. We got that information. What is it? Logical administrative boundary. See, PC5 is not in our domain. It is not in our domain database. So domain user cannot able to log into PC5 because it is outside of our domain. So even it is in the same network, but it is outside of our domain. So that is called a logical administrative boundary of users and computers. Okay. Next, what is this Active Directory? Why I said Active Directory domain? There is a reason. For example, you want to know what is domain, then what you do, you will search in a Google what is a domain. Then you will get a lot of different type of informations. So realm of domain name is a string that identify realm of administrative autonomy, authority, control, something it is given. Where is my definition? You search anywhere, you will get a different type of definitions. My meaning is not coming now. Active Directory related domain, that environment we are not getting. We are getting different domain name related, groups related kind of stuff. Okay. So if you search AD domain, then you will get our Active Directory domain. Our Active Directory domain information, at least same or a little different, but meaning is won't changes. Active Directory domain is a collection of objects within the Active Directory network. Okay. So that's why I put a AD domain. Domain or AD domain in our concept, in our subject, it is same. Okay. It is a logical administrative boundary of users and computers. Next, what is this Active Directory? Active Directory, actually it is a Microsoft service. If you search in Google, you will find this one. Active Directory is a Microsoft service. Okay, Microsoft service. Active Directory is a concept is built based by Microsoft only. It is a Microsoft service. Okay, but what is Active Directory? Of course, what is that service? What service it will do? It store database. Active Directory database stores identity of users, groups, computers, services, resources, information, user information, group information, computer information, resource information stored in the Active Directory database. Okay, and Active Directory also authenticates users and computers when they log into domain. So it's very simple. User is okay. Users and computers. So okay, when our user is logging to a computer, domain computer, who is going to authorize? Who is going to authorize? Domain controller, right? So that is who is going to authenticate or authorize? Domain controller. That is a Active Directory duty. Active Directory, two things. Active Directory database. Second one is authentication.
Authenticate.
Okay, two things. If you remember these 2 points, that is enough. Okay, Active Directory database. Database means it contains information. What information? User information, domain user information, computer information,
User
groups, services. Yes, yes, very good. User and computers, at least two things. You remember that is also okay. Authentication. What it will authenticate when users want to log into domain computer. So domain controller authenticates user. Okay, that is a two duties. You have a protocols, guys. For authentication protocol is a Kerberos and LDAP. These are a authentication protocol. Kerberos Active Directory mainly use Kerberos protocol to authenticate users. Next one is database, means database having some name, right? There is a database file. The database file name is NTDS.DIT. New Technology Directory Service Directory Information Tree. Directory Information Tree. So New Technology Directory Service Directory Information Tree. Okay, these two are things. We have a database. What is the database name? We are doing authentication. What is the authentication protocol? This Active Directory name is came from Windows Server 2000. Before 2000, NT server is there. NT server does not use this Active Directory structure. They use a different authentication and different database like a SAM database and this what. Okay, SAM database, NTLM authentication kind of stuff. But from 2000 onwards, we are using Active Directory word and we are using databases NTDS.DIT and Kerberos authentication. This is additional part. And you can see Active Directory and ADDS. AD or ADDS, what is the correct one? Both are correct. Because AD is the old name, ADDS is new name. From 2008 server onwards, Active Directory changes to Active Directory Domain Services. Because Active Directory having so many type of services are there. Active Directory Certification Service, Active Directory Right Management Services, Active Directory Federation Services, Active Directory Lightweight Directory Access Services, like that. Active Directory 5 services are there and from 2008 onwards. So that's one of our Active Directory is Active Directory Domain Services. Okay. Simple Azure AD. Azure is a cloud service from Microsoft. What is AD? Active Directory. You want an Active Directory service from cloud, not from Windows Server, physical on-premises server. I want to get an Active Directory service from cloud, then what to do? Azure AD is helpful for that one. Okay, this is it. So what this is the Active Directory. That is enough. So there are a lot of things about Active Directory, group policies, kind of stuff. But group policy, one line already I given. So you may understand what is a group policy. We can enforce various type of settings to the large number of users and computers. Learning of Active Directory take at least 1 week time. Okay, with the practical and all. And I think yesterday I shared one video about an Active Directory user creation, user login, at least put it in a 2x mode, guys. 1x means it will take another 40-50 minutes. So why should you go for that one? Put it in 2x mode, fast track, just watch it. At least watch it, that's the point. Okay. So you can pause when you want it or slow down when you want it. Okay. Explanation again anyway. Okay. Yesterday I shared that link. Now take a break.
Yes, sir.
Come back in 12:10. And after that one, we are going to discuss possible DHCP DNS